What is going on, everybody? I'm Alex Hunter. This is HP Builds, and welcome back to the channel. Now, a couple weeks ago, me and Ashley went all the way to Orville, Ohio to pick up a car that is my dad's quote-unquote dream car. And that car is a 1987 Merkur XR4TI. Check this car out. Now, I don't know about you, but this car is awesome. So a little backstory here. What I meant by this is Dad's dream car. Way back in 1987, when this car was new, Dad went to the dealership to buy one. And not just any one. He went to buy this exact one. Color, interior, everything. He went to buy this exact car. And he had it financed. He was ready to buy it. But he was hesitant. He wanted to wait on insurance. The insurance quote came back and it was $2,200 a year, which at the time was more than the yearly cost on the loan for this car. So his monthly payments were cheaper than the monthly insurance payment. So Dad decided, I'm not gonna buy this car, I'm gonna let it roll. Well, 35 years later, I have heard about this car time and time again. Every time we see one at a car show, he tells me that story. And 2.5 weeks ago, I guess, Dad reached out to me with a link to this car. And he said, check this out. It is in Orville, Ohio, and it is the exact car that I wanted back in 1987. And I said, well, let's go get it. And for those of you that don't know my dad, one, he's extremely big at procrastinating, but two, he doesn't buy himself anything like this. He would never get in the car and go buy something like this for himself. So of course he said no, and it wasn't until I got over to his shop that I realized I had to do what I could to get this car here. Because when I walked in his shop, he had an 8.5 by 11 notebook pad of all the weight and horsepower and torque of Lucy the Mustang compared to this car. And I'm like, okay, yeah, he's all about this car. He's hooked. We've got to make it happen. So I come home and got with Mom and I said, look, me and Ashley will get in the truck. We will go get this car if you buy it for Dad. And she said, well, is it a good deal? And I said, I think so, because as you can tell, this car is extremely clean. And that is because it is a one-owner car. It is a garage kept car. It has never been out in the rain. And it has 67,000 miles. So I told Mom, I said, if it runs and drives great, I think it's worth every bit of what we would pay for it. And she said, well, if you can go up there, you can check it out, you can make sure it's good, go get it. So I worked hard trying to get in touch with the man due to some problems with Marketplace, and ended up getting in touch with him after about a day, told him the story of the car. I said, look, if this car runs and drives, I'm your buyer. And he said, well, cool, come and get it. He did warn me though, that the day before I made a plan to come get the car, that he had a man coming from New York to look at the car. And I said, well, can I put a deposit on it? He said, no, he said, that gentleman is not really interested in buying the car because he's coming here to put it in a magazine. And I said, well, that's really cool. And come to find out, the guy actually has a German magazine that he writes for. And he came, looked this car over the day before we got there, from the front bumper to the tail lights, and told Mike, the original owner, that if they don't buy the car when they show up, I will come back and buy it. He thought it was that clean. And I do too. I mean, there is really only a couple little issues with this car. It has one little scratch on the back fender on this side, which is like this big. No big deal for a car of this age. It has a little paint thinning and fading right around the door handle. And I kind of investigated that while we were at his house. And I noticed his garage, if you pull this car in, had a window literally right here. And to top it all off, it was aiming east. So every single morning that this car sat in his garage, the sun just beamed in right here around this door. So it didn't surprise me that that was there. I mean, like I said, very, very light discoloration and some fading going on. Nothing that we can't handle for a car of this age. Other than that, got a little area on the headliner that's sagging. No big deal. We can find a guy to fix that. And the last thing, it was going to happen anyways, is the exhaust has to be modified on this car. Because from 1987 to now, with this car having such low miles, it shows that every time he started this car up, he backed it out of the garage and set. Which, if you know, the exhaust will get warm, and when you turn it off, it will condensate. So instead of driving it, getting it full operating temperature like most cars do, and burns off the moisture, it's settled in the exhaust. So every 90-degree corner on the exhaust tubing has a small, tiny little exhaust leak going on, which isn't a big deal because Dad's long-term goal, he wants to put a new exhaust system on the car anyways. So when I looked at it, I'm like, this is not a problem, Mike. This is a very nice car. This is even nicer than I anticipated walking up on. So as you can see, we bought it. But there is some more plans other than just an exhaust for this car. So clearly, Dad wants to use it as a normal driver, take it to car shows and all that. But he wants to autocross it, which I think is really cool. Because that notebook pad I was talking about, well, it had the weight, the horsepower, the torque, and all that, comparing it to the race car Mustang, right? Mustang has 180 horsepower. This car has 175. Mustang weighs 3,400 pounds. This car weighs like 2,700 and some change. So it can definitely do the job of an autocross car. So we sat down, we ordered some new tires for the car because the tires on this car are 21 years old. So we went ahead and ordered some nice sticky Kumho tires that are a all-season, sport tire, so to speak. That way Dad can still enjoy this car all year round and still take it and play with it on an autocross pad. But on top of that, we looked into what can you do as far as performance. And that is where things get really, really interesting. So there is, in Germany, a group that races these cars. They take and do some modifications to the engine, make more horsepower. They even have this bezel around the headlights. They have a different one that opens up and allows more air to get through and into the radiator. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. But I mean, they do full on strip it down, go full cage. And because of that, you can actually still buy parts for these cars, which I thought was awesome. I already found shocks and struts because these things are original to the car. And when you hit a bump, they're a little soft. So we're going to order those as soon as we get back from his first autocross session, which is this weekend. All right, that's too funny. As I was shooting the video, I kind of looked past the camera and I'm like, there's a guy pulling in the driveway and I don't recognize the car. He literally just sat here and talked for 10 minutes about this car. That is honestly, like the 12th guy that's done that. I'm not exaggerating. We pulled into AutoZone and had 2 guys walk in and say, "Who's got the Merkur outside?" This car really is something special. And I am so glad that this is Dad's. So all that I've got left to do in this video, we got to take it for a spin, right? We can't just sit here and stare at it. Let's get in the car. Let's go put some miles down. So, as I mentioned earlier, the exhaust does have a few little leaks. And that's okay. It's going to get replaced. But when I start this car, you will be able to hear that the exhaust is a little louder than a factory Merkur should be. So let's fire this car up. Let's hit the road. Not too bad, huh? So, as I said earlier, this car is very light compared to the Mustang and has a good amount of power. So when you get into this car, it moves on. I mean, it ain't 500 horsepower race car, but it is very, very quick. Now, one thing that I absolutely love about this car is from the factory, they put a boost gauge in the dash, which is so cool. And this car, even being a small turbo, little 4-cylinder from the factory, you can make almost about 15 pounds of boost with it, which is really impressive. I think it's safe to say that for a good while, this car will be in the family. I don't think Dad's ever gonna sell this car because, heck, it only took him 35 years to get it. Now, before we end this video, I want to end this video with the clip of Dad seeing this car for the first time. We obviously went and got it for him and he had no idea. But what was even cooler is we got back, met him for Mexican for dinner, and he actually went inside before we even got there. And we put the car out on Main Street under all the lights and put a big red bow on it. And when he walked out, he was clueless for about, I don't know, a good minute and a half. But you can truly see the excitement in his face and in his voice as we surprised him with this car. So, enjoy that clip. After that clip, we're gonna end the video right there. So make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because this car, in just 2 short days, is going to the racetrack. So we will see you guys there.
What? What is it, babe? What the hell? What? Look! Look at what? What is it?
What is it?
What is that? Did Clark buy a car? This ain't the car that was in Ohio.
It might be.
Yeah, it could be.
I might have just drove 18 hours yesterday round trip and 8 today.
Holy shit. Yeah, that's what we did.
My truck and trailer's over here.
This came from Ohio? Yeah.
I was at the dude's house today at noon.
This is the one we looked at.
Yes.
The collector car.
Yes.
Yeah, one owner, 67,000 miles.
Whoa!
Hey, it's unlocked. Open the door.
This is like the nicest gift I've ever. Oh, God. And you better take your daughter-in-law. Not many women would say, I'll go. They left Thursday night, spent the night.
No, it was Sunday night.
Yeah.
Today's Monday.
Now I've been drinking the cane, driving car. Grande margarita.
Look at me.
It's only what, 13,
I have no
37,
idea.
39 years later. It's here.
Yeah, this color bow should I get? He says, Mama, you don't know what you bought? I said, no.
All right, I'm turning the camera off.
Did you meet the guy and stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah, we did all
I'm
that.
turning the camera off. Here, you like your car?
I love